Super Talk 99.7 WTN, just after 4 o'clock. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. I was on a toot the last half of the show in the first hour, and thank you. I had my rant pants on, and I appreciate you indulging me, but I think it merits a little rant pants now and then. And I'm going to get back into, after our conversation with our next guest, because I want to focus in on some Middle Tennessee issues, but I'm getting back into the entire purpose of that setup about the Mountain of Freedom and how leftists are trying to chip away at the base of freedom. So all of these arguments we're having about more nitpicky type things aren't going to matter if they topple the Mountain of Freedom and they begin eroding some of these basic bedrock principles that we know and love. Principles like the First Amendment, principles like the Second Amendment, principles like our basic ability to prevent illegal people from coming into this country and taking it over. And that was the genesis of the rant, is where they are on illegal immigration, because they've moved in 10 months from, no, of course we believe in this, and yes, we need to talk about it, to, no, we don't believe in it, and no, we don't want to talk about it. And if you get here, you get to stay here, no matter who you are. The state of Illinois is about to release 1,800 convicts into their state, convicted criminals into their state, as opposed to turning them over to ICE, because they just don't want to. So more on that coming up in just a few moments. But our next guest to the program is a good friend of the show, and the first thing she said to me when she walked into the door was, "Are you in a bad mood?" And I was like, "No, I just had a great hour. What are you talking about?" She goes, "I can just hear you yelling through the walls." Courtney Johnston is with us. She's with the Metro Nashville City Council, and it's always a pleasure having you in. How are you?
Glad to be here. I'm good.
I'll calm down.
Thank you. Good.
I'm very
calm Matt.
I'm very excited. Well, I mean, and part of it is something that I wanted to talk to you about, is that I'm very excitable as to whether or not this is just your basic backlash to Trump actually doing the things that he promised to do. And so there are people freaking out about that, or are we seeing a shift? And the 7th District was, I mean, that's a big question. You and I were talking about it on election night, whether or not this is something that's real in our community, or if this is just a moment in time.
I think it's real. I mean, and to me, it's not even Republican Democrat anymore. We're talking about massive fringe socialists. The Democratic Socialists of America are growing in size and in number, and it's alarming. To me, it just doesn't make any sense when you look at anywhere else in the world that socialism is in play. It's not successful, not even close. So I don't understand why we would have even a conversation about it, because anybody can look at it and go, yeah, that's not just not good, that's terrible. Mm-hmm. And maybe their argument is, well, we can do it better, but it's not even about the execution of it. It's the basis of the belief that is just inherently wrong. And I think we get caught up talking more about emotions and virtue and all that versus policy. The emotional stuff about it, and it's mean and this, that, and the other. But when you talk about the policy, that's what we're failing to do.
Yeah, I mean, we can have, tough love on the front end and freedom on the back end, or we can have good feelings on the front end and being a slave to government on the back end. I mean, when we're talking about these higher level concepts of, free market, democracy or socialism, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, and there is some tough love that needs to be involved in telling people, no, you don't get to be on the SNAP benefit program just because you want to be on the SNAP benefit program. The SNAP benefit program should be there for people who absolutely 100% need it. And we need more of that on the front end, in my opinion. And that's but the issue is that's always, for a conservative person or a Republican or whatever, that's always a harder sell.
Yeah. All of those programs they incentivize failure. There's no incentive unless you just truly want to stand on your own 2 feet and you're using it for what it's supposed to be, which is temporary to get on your feet. But when you get to a certain level of income or whatever, you get those benefits taken away. So the incentive is to not get that level of income or whatever that threshold is. And so just inherently those programs are flawed. And there is a lot of abuse as we see and know. Yes.
What were your thoughts? What were your let's get it more specific. What were your thoughts about the 7th Congressional District race?
I think the whole thing relies or surrounds the turnout. And there's a lot of people on the far left that are really excited about, we've closed the gap. When you look at the numbers, Democrat turnout was only 35% down, which equated to around 40,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Republican turnout was down 50%, which equated to about 100,000 people. And so if you equalize that and everybody turned out, I think we would have seen a different percentage and not necessarily that gap that they're excited about. What's frustrating about that is it shows a level of apathy, but it also shows, I was watching social media coming up to that. People have no idea what district they're in. They have no idea who their representatives are on any level. There's a lot of ignorance, and that's not ignorance, is just they don't know.
Right.
And that's what we should really be, I think, focusing in on. Every conversation that I've ever had with anyone, when you talk about the issues and the policies, most of the time, regardless of whatever jersey they put on politically, we're typically within a margin of error there of agreeing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just about engaging those folks and getting people interested and knowledgeable about what district they're in, who's representing them, what the issues are of the, that we're dealing with, so that they can have a voice and an educated voice.
It's funny you bring this up because I didn't know how to feel about it when I had a lot of different people approach me leading up to the election. And I just had someone last night who is from over in Knoxville, and she was in town because one of her sons was playing on the Ricky Skaggs show at the Fisher Center. And so we got a chance to say hello to Ricky after the show, blah, blah, blah. And we're standing in one of the areas waiting, and we're just talking to people. And she, overheard me talking to somebody that knew what I did. And so we got to talking about the Van Epps race. And she was like, oh, yeah. She said, I was so concerned about that. And like she lives like 25 miles outside of Knoxville. She said, I was so concerned about that, I had to call and find out if that was my district because I really wanted to vote for Van Epps if it was. And I appreciate the spirit, and I'm not against it. But at the same time, I'm like, Lord, have mercy, right? Because we got to know these things. And I'm glad there's an awareness there. And I'm not knocking this lady, but I got a lot of those messages prior to.
Yeah.
And so while I'm happy that there's kind of a wake-up call, there's a special election, we got some awareness going on, but I'm like, also, you got to know who your folks are, because we're already operating at a deficit. We already operate with an expectation you're not going to get 50% of the people coming out to vote that are eligible.
Right.
And I truly believe that the perception of Nashville, the bubble as a blue place, is based on a belief by the people that aren't so blue in Davidson County that they've already lost the ideological war. And so they just stay home.
Yes, I think that's true.
So what do we do to combat it? Besides run Courtney Johnston as the next mayor of the state, the city of Nashville, but that's neither here nor there. We'll deal with that later.
Just won't stop, will you?
No. I told you how I'm going to help you. I told you, Alexa, I said, Courtney, just say the word and I'll start bashing you incessantly for not being a good enough Republican. And that's going to push you over the edge.
Well, I will say that from my standpoint, when I get phone calls, and emails from Democrats a lot, more than Republicans actually, expressing extreme concern and frustration around what's happening in Nashville. And obviously, when tax bills came out a month or so ago, that was eye-opening for folks. That how they didn't know that this was coming, I don't know, but it's certainly reality when you open up that tax bill. And so we're going to see. But
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Did you find yourself wishing, because I found myself wishing this, we had a conversation on the show, I don't know, a month ago, when some of this started coming down. And I found I'm not here to preach to the choir, because my audience is the choir and they know better than probably most people in the church. But the number of people that came out and said, oh my God, I wish I'd have known about this. And I'm like, we begged for more participation prior to the vote. We begged for people to go down prior to the vote. And with all due respect to the people that were there, and I love you. I love Ben Cunningham, and I love Pamela Furr and AFP, and I love all of those organizations, and I love Jason Weekly. There were not nearly enough people to impact the decision-making prior to the decision-making. And now, after the fact, it's too late.
Yeah. I had people email or called me and said, hey, I just got this in the mail. I didn't approve this. I was like, bless your heart. I'm like, well, I don't know who you voted for, but, that's kind of how you do. I had actually a Democrat friend of mine that was on the council last term call me over the weekend and said, when we did that 34% tax increase in 2020, that was a major overcorrection that should have lasted much longer. We shouldn't have needed to have increased taxes by 27% so soon. What happened? And I said, well, I'll tell you exactly what happened is that instead of looking, it was all from that COVID funding, ARPA, CARES, and mostly from the school's perspective. So I was on that committee that handled how we spent Metro's portion of ARPA and CARES Act, but not the schools. The schools did their own, and they called it ESSER. One-time funding. And I every time we had people come in front of us, I said, we have to make sure that you understand this is one-time funding and you cannot create a funding cliff for yourself. And so creating new programming is not wise because you're not going to have that funding in the next couple of years.
Right.
It needs to be one-time, like asset purchase, things like that. The schools did not do that. They created a lot of programming, nurses in every school.
But it has to be refunded.
Right. Well, and so they didn't want that programming to stop. And so what was always one-time funding was, oh no, we're going to lose this programming. We can't do this. So now we have built into our budget the sustaining of the funding for what never was supposed to be anything more than one-time funding. And that was the vast majority of that tax increase.
Murphy's Maxim number 467. Government programs never go away without people dying. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when a government program happens, it can be temporary, it can be whatever. But if you try to take it away, there's going to be someone on television news telling you how many people are going to die as a result of whatever program it is going away.
Yeah.
And that's how they keep it. That's why government just grows. It never shrinks.
Yeah. Thankfully, from Metro's perspective, we were very diligent in making sure that whatever we spent our money on was either going to be sustainable or was literally, purchasing equipment type stuff, that one-time stuff. And the schools just didn't do it, and we allowed them to just continue doing that. And so the other thing about the schools is that once you give them a certain amount of money, you can't take that away. The next year, you can't reduce funding. It has to be equal to or more than.
The Metro Council and Mayor's Office relationship with the Metro Nashville school system is baffling to me.
Because the only thing there is we are a funding mechanism, and
Right.
that's it. We have no control over what they spend. I mean, they showed up during the budget process without an approved budget from themselves. It was bizarre.
Well, and for why would you not have some level of a controlling mechanism on the part? I mean, I understand giving the board a certain level of autonomy on curriculum. I mean, there's a lot of aspects of what they do that I wouldn't want the Metro Council involved in. But in terms of growth and spending money and creating programs and who their superintendent is and how much money she can spend on her own private bathroom or whatever it might be, I'm just amazed that I have the mayor sitting here a month ago and he's like, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm like, you're the mayor of the city.
Yeah. When you control the purse strings, what you don't do is give them tens and tens. What was the increase this year? I can't remember. But it was multi-million-dollar increases over last year when we've had enrollment has been flat for at least a decade. And yet their funding has increased exponentially, hundreds of millions of dollars, almost doubling, without true increases in outcomes, right? We're graduating more people. Yeah, but when 80% of those people aren't ready to graduate, or is that really something that we should be celebrating? Is that really something we should be increasing funding to invest more into that type of outcome? It's like, no. So we do have that's our only way of saying, hey, listen, we don't agree with what you're doing, so we're not going to give you this much more money.
When we return, we will ask Courtney Johnston a couple of $64,000 questions. That's a dated reference that you don't understand, Jackson, but some in the listening audience do. So one of them will involve funding mechanisms for a couple of programs that I think we appreciate. A couple of questions will involve whether or not we're going to see certain programs that everyone almost universally approves of happen anytime soon. We call this on the agenda item old business, and we'll cover some old business in a moment with Courtney Johnston. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I kind of dig that. I'll be playing that in the new homestead.
Do they celebrate Christmas there?
Out in the Tulies. Jackson's giving me grief. We're not talking about where I'm moving yet because I don't want to jinx anything. But I made the mistake of telling Jackson where I was moving, and he will not. Jackson, can we get a mic check here? Thank you. He will not be quiet about it anymore. So. He's like, he told me that I basically was moving to Iraq. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Essentially, Iraq, Miami, same place.
Well, there's a lot of good people. I'm not going to really, say that I know too, but lots of good people where you are possibly moving.
You can't, you know what? It is hard to go wrong in Middle Tennessee. Honestly.
True.
Honestly.
True.
I'm not talking to you, Pegram, but everybody else. It's hard to go wrong.
Pegram's gorgeous.
I think I've tried to find, I waited because I used to pick on a place called Aniana on my radio show. I learned this from the late, great Rush Limbaugh. He used to pick on Rio Linda all the time. Aniana was a town in Blunt Springs, and I called it the butthole of Alabama because it was.
Rude.
It was. I was very rude. I would say things like, they don't have any birds flying over Aniana. Do you know why the birds don't fly over Aniana?
Not yet.
Because there's nothing worth poop in Aniana.
Oh, Lord.
But I think I'm going to graduate Aniana.
Where's that womp?
Jackson's not worried about me. Jackson's talking to your husband. He's not paying attention. He's gold bricking.
I am
on this show today. So I think I'm transferring all that fun to Pegram. Although I'm a little bit nervous about that.
Why Pegram? Why are you picking on them?
Because they're good people, and that's what I do.
Pegram, pay no mind.
Pay me no mind, Pegram. But you're no Ashland City.
Good grief.
So, with all that said, we're going to talk. I've run out of time. Now we got to get to Ken Weaver, but you'll stick around for another. Yeah. I mean, you don't have holiday festivities to go to.
I have
for a
nothing
long time, right?
better to do, Matt, than sit here and talk to you.
That's the way I like to hear it. It's 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Jazzy.
Jackson Williams on horn. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy. Happy holidays, everyone. Happy Monday. We're in with Courtney Johnston, who is on the Nashville Metro City Council. I got into a fight with somebody about you.
About me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord.
Well, I don't know whether I should say this on the radio or not, but not a
Which
fight.
Which means you will.
It really wasn't a fight. I say it was a fight. It was just a Twitter thing because somebody put up a list of Metro councilors. And we know that y'all don't run with D's or R's. Mm-hmm. But, based on record, they were like, find me the conservative. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I think Courtney's a conservative. I think she ran as a Republican in the 5th Congressional District. And, those are bona fides.
Right.
And, her, but find me another one. I'm like, well, there's one. I'm just, not arguing with you.
That doesn't sound like a fight. I feel like you're leaving out part of the story, Matt.
No, I mean, they just wanted to, they wanted to argue about whether you were conservative or not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's not an argument. You can have that argument with Courtney. Don't have it with me.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get in that fight all the time. Because you have to deal with these socialists.
Well, right. And, yeah, it's just, that was one of the most frustrating things about running was, well, and then the funny thing was after that 4 months was over with, the same people that were calling me a Hamas-loving Democrat was like, "Thank you so much for all of your conservative voice and values on the council." And I'm like, "Am I in the twilight zone? Like, what are you talking about? Like, how can you?" Anyway, it was bizarre.
Speaking of bizarre, let's talk about the Metro City Council. I am told by reliable sources, and I understand that it is a pet project of mine, but it's about to be more of a pet project because I don't think that there is enough push against Mayor O'Connell and the Metro Council on their lack of activity on the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. There is a $130-something million offer on the table from Bristol Motor Speedway and their parent company to revitalize that area. I believe that it will be I think in concert with what they've already done at Geodis, it will continue to revitalize that space in Nashville, and it will, what do we like to say? It will be a multiplier. I love that government term. It's a multiplier. But it is at no cost to the taxpayer, to my understanding, this deal that's
Correct.
On the table.
So I don't know what the terms of the new deal that they are either currently working on or is done and is just being held because of political reasons. I don't know. What I do know about the previous deal that John Cooper had, and I know would be probably not much different than that. I think what people should understand, the people that are upset about, well, I don't want a NASCAR in my backyard. You're talking about one NASCAR race every other year.
Right.
So we're not talking about NASCAR every weekend. We're talking about one. Everything else remains the same.
Right.
The same number of races. One
Additional
NASCAR, one
weekend.
Additional every other year.
And the noise abatement, the story
right.
it's like a 50% additional noise abatement every weekend that they have racing. So the noise levels are going to go down considerably.
Yes. And not only is the investment at no cost to the taxpayers, currently, that is an expense. It is a liability that we pay for every year with the crumbling facilities that are there that have been ignored for decades. So we pay millions of dollars every year to keep that thing from just completely falling over. And so that all goes away. So not only are we not spending money on maintenance and renovations and types, things like that, we also get a brand new facility at no cost to taxpayers. We get noise abatement for the community. We get a revenue generator. Not only do we not have the debt that goes along with the investment to improve these facilities.
Now people are coming in that are spending their money.
Correct. We have a new revenue stream that will hopefully maybe be one of those things that offsets these higher property taxes. Hello. So it's just it's bizarre to me. It's also a charter protected use as part of our history. I mean, when you talk about people wanting to preserve the history, whether it's the Morrison Building or things like that, it's like, well, history is history. And so why is the Morrison Building something that folks are willing to get behind, but not the Nashville racetrack?
I think I feel like this is a different version of the property tax discussion, right? Because I think largely people are supportive of this concept. And you tell them about it, and they're like, absolutely, 100%. And would you consider going if they revive? Oh, yeah, I would think about it. I might not go now, but I'd think about going then. It's already being used by racing purists and people who love racing, but that would grow. These other weekends would grow if you make that facility what it could be under Bristol. Once again, at no cost. Once again, a charter protected use. And people go, yeah, yes, it's a no-brainer. But there has not been a groundswell of push to tell the Metro Council, we're serious about this.
I think it's because anger is much more motivating than, yeah, that'd be cool.
No, I feel, and my fear is, to that point, is the anger we're seeing about the property tax increases after the fact. It's going to be there.
Too late.
If Bristol pulls out and John Ingram gets his way and he gets what the use he wants for that facility, and I believe it's all about John Ingram and the money that he's holding over affordable housing, and Freddie acquiesces to his desires in the council, then people are going to get pissed when it's gone, when it's bulldozed.
When it's too
late.
Correct.
And I'm just trying to get in front of it and say, and I said this 3.5 years ago, folks, this is a unique part of Nashville, Tennessee that no other city has, and you will never get it back once it's gone. And when a condo's there, that's just going to be just another condo.
Yep.
And it's very frustrating.
I agree with you. We'll see what happens. I mean, We'll see if that deal is ever even brought to us meaning the council.
Because the old deal got approved by the Fairgrounds Board.
Correct.
And it was set to go to the council, and they never brought it up.
Correct.
Because of a change in administration.
Correct.
And just to signpost so everybody understands where we are, when Freddie got in power, he came on this show and he said, I'm in favor of the Fairground Speedway, but I am focused on transit, and I'm going to get my transit plan in place before we deal with that. Well, guess what? The transit plan happened, and we still haven't dealt with this. And now I don't know where Freddie is on it. He's hemming and hawing on it for some, and now and so they've waited long enough. They got community input. The Fairground Board voted. Now they have shifted back to 3 years ago and said, well, we need community input. No, you don't. You already had community input.
Right. And
it's just a lot of obfuscation and delay. And I don't know. It's very frustrating.
It is. But, 100%. This is when you say the ball is in his court, the mayor has the deal, whether the deal has been inked or not. And I certainly don't know. I have a feeling that it is, that those terms have been worked out for the new deal. I haven't seen it. It obviously hasn't been made public. I don't know. But he has the ability to either go back, and I don't know if they even have to go back to the Fair Board. I don't know if the new deal is materially different enough that would cause it to have to go back to the Fair Board. But regardless, it either has to go back to the Fair Board first and then come to us, or just come directly to us. Again, either way, he's in control of that.
Well, this community, and look, I'm a newbie, so I'm not here to wag my finger at anybody that's been here a while, including you, Courtney. But y'all lost Opryland. Y'all didn't get a say in it. They just shut that down while y'all were sleeping, literally. You almost lost the Ryman. They're about to get ready to tear the Ryman down and put a condo there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not comparing the Nashville Speedway to either of those entities, but I'm saying that there are a lot of similarities. And there is history in that facility that dates back to 1904. And you're never getting it back if we don't do so. And I'm getting ready. I feel like that there needs to be someone that is the tip of the spear that's willing to. I don't know. I'm waiting for that entity, and I know that there's a lot of interested parties, but I'm wondering, is there an entity that has coalesced behind one voice that goes to the council meeting? And I'm willing to do that if people are behind me. If I can get people there, I'm willing to do it, where we go to the meetings and we say, where are we on this? Why haven't you voted on this? And press the elected officials, because that's the only thing they understand, right? Is pressure. Is that fair?
Well,
on an issue
it depends
like this?
I think it depends on who the pressure is coming from, actually. I mean, we've seen multiple things where there was a lot of pressure that was coming from residents that was totally ignored because they just had their mind made up and they feel like they know best, and that's it. So, again, I was reading an article today in the Pamphleteer, and I encourage people to sign up for that newsletter, pamphleteer.co. That's talking about the difference between politics and politicking. And while politics should be around policy and all this, and this is what we're talking about, is what's the right thing to do. In the meantime, the people that are actually voting are politicking on who is the influencer here and what can I, that type of stuff. And so to your point, where here's these major issues, and in the meantime, you got people toppling over the mountain.
Mm-hmm. All right. So back to another issue that there's been a lot of politicking on. So the question I get more than anything with regard to Nashville when we talk about safety is whether or not Nashville has reached a point that Governor Bill Lee should do for Nashville what they did to Memphis and take over and bring in the National Guard. I do not believe that we're there, but I'm fearful that we could get there if local leadership does not do and give to Metro Nashville Police the tools that they have been begging for. We talk about them every time you're on, whether it's FUSIS or LPRs. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, these are components that the Metro Nashville Police say that they need. I believe that the men and women who are on the street work very, very hard to keep our communities safe. And if they say they need these tools and you put safeguards in place, why the elected leadership will not give them these tools is beyond me, because the future is that a future governor, if not Bill Lee, someone else, has to say, okay, it's gotten bad enough. We're about to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs in terms of tourism dollars. We got to bring National Guard in here to make sure people are safe.
I agree with you 100%. There are things at our fingertips that we have the funding for, we have the support for. LPRs it's an 80-20 issue. Worst case, it's that 80% of the people support that, and we still can't do it because of whatever politics. I don't even. To me, there's no argument against it. It's ridiculous.
I would agree.
And so, I don't want the National Guard to come here because I do feel like we know we can take care of this ourselves. So why waste the resources of the National Guard when we can do it ourselves, and yet we're choosing not to? Mm-hmm. That's what's upsetting to me. And so I hope we don't get to that point. And the numbers show that we're not at the levels that Memphis is or was at. But could we get there? Absolutely. And so
the thieves come where the police aren't and where the money is.
So, yeah, which is another reason why all these LPRs in these collar counties continue to catch
my adopted hometown
criminals.
of Mount Juliet, right? I mean, they're
Right.
catching Nashville people all the time, and many other communities. I just noticed Mount Juliet.
And it's putting a strain on those local police departments. They're going, hey, can you please handle your own stuff because we're tired of handling it for you? So, I agree with you. We're not there yet. We could be. We definitely have tools that we have at our disposal that we could vote on very easily. Well, I say easily, but it could be brought to a vote. We certainly have the funding for it, God knows. And these are easy. These are easy button stuff.
Do you believe, I'm going to ask in the minute or two that we have left, because I want to make sure that I've covered everything of note. Well, let me ask you that question first. Is there anything else that needs to be on our radar screen, metro-wise, that isn't?
I don't know. There's probably. You just threw that out of left field. We've got a lot of things that I think we could be doing better to make our county run more efficiently and effectively, that we're actively choosing not to do. That's all really an executive branch function. So that's frustrating, and they're not hard things to do. They're just things that you have to be willing to do.
I should note, and thank you, 0404. I apologize. Sometimes I talk above the newbies in the audience, and I don't mean to do that. LPRs.
Yes, license plate readers.
And I understand that, I talk to my civil libertarian friends all the time. I talk to look, I get it. I'm with you. I understand and share the concerns. But at the same time, I have seen the program, and the program overcomes those concerns in the interest of general public safety. That said, we can debate that later on. You think Afton's going to run against Freddie?
Yeah.
She's going to flank Freddie to the left?
I think the only
avenue, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. She'll push him to the middle. Yeah. Wherever that is.
So crazy Afton, and I say that in love because she's been on the show. She can come on anytime she wants to. I don't begrudge her crazy, but she's pretty crazy politically. She could potentially make Freddie a better mayor.
Well,
in a weird way.
I think she could make him a more appealing candidate. I don't know about a better mayor. Those are two different things.
That's very fair. Is there any planet that Courtney Johnston runs for mayor?
I have no idea.
As we sit here today?
I have no idea. I think next year is going to be interesting when those property tax bills come due, which is February the 28th.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, I get calls all the time from Democrats that are expressing frustration and what are we going to do, and a little bit of panic when you have businesses that are talking about leaving. And I mean longstanding businesses that are talking about leaving the county because the property tax liability is so untenable. And while the numbers show that crime is down, it doesn't feel that way. And so what people's perception is their reality. Mm-hmm. And especially when we know that we have tools that we can be using to make those numbers be even better and have a palatable feeling of security that would be given with those tools that we could be using and by investing in our police department that we're not doing. And so I think where we should be looking at is fiscal responsibility and public safety. And if we had an election on those two things, that would be more clear. If it's on party line, it is sort of what it is.
Courtney, always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. There's Courtney Johnston, a member of the Metro Nashville City Council. We'll be back in a moment, 54 after the hour on Super Talk.